I'm honored to speak today about boundaries. That's right, boundaries. What is the importance of boundaries? I'm going to jump right into an example after telling you the two things, the two sides of boundaries we have to look at. One, setting boundaries, particularly think of boundaries around yourself, is important. The other thing, the other principle, so the first principle, set boundaries. That's healthy. Second principle, be careful about what boundaries you set because they can trap you in. As much as you're trying to keep out certain things and define your boundaries, you don't want to set up the wrong boundaries that prevent what you need from coming in and from what you need to release from going out. All right, boundaries. The example I'm going to start, the strong example. Now, we know alchemy. Alchemy. If you listen to Manly P. Hall speak about alchemy, he speaks about it more to the point of anyone else out there. When he says alchemy, he defines alchemy as a set of symbols. These are symbols recognized by the ancients, and people go, "Oh, when they said this symbol, boom, that's what it is. It's that symbol." And they look at the symbol as the picture, and that is their boundary. They set a boundary. Oh, if that's a symbol, then we're talking about that exact thing. So they've limited their boundary, and therefore they cannot access the power of alchemy. The healthier boundary is to say, what is the boundary of this symbol? There's something wider. This symbol represents something. So it's not just the content that's in that, but there is a context to that symbol, and we can then put a boundary around that context. Perfect symbol to dive into, talking about boundaries, is Saturn. So there is a Saturn symbol. In alchemy, it's used in astrology. It's very recognizable. Now, setting the appropriate boundaries around what this symbol means. Here is where a lot of these, YouTuber occultists will go into. They get trapped in a boundary. That's a difficult one people don't know about is the trapping, the second principle. Don't trap yourself in a boundary. They make these connections. They go off logic. Saturn, Satan. Saturn is Satan. And we can talk about religions and their god was truly the god of Saturn, and they're trying to get you to worship Saturn. And this particular group, they're still worshiping Seth, Satan. And this group, all of them, are trapping us in this evildoer. What boundaries did they set? That this context must always be associated. They do it in a very logical flow. And this is a fallacy of logic. You have to linear logic. They're only looking at it from one. They put a linear boundary around this thing. They said because that word sounds like that word, it must mean that, and that's always evil, and these people associate evil. So today, anyone using that same name, that particular religion, are then bound by that worship of Satan. There's so many things wrong with that. Let's break that down really fast. Saturn. Why do we choose Saturn anyway to begin with? Saturn is the planet of boundaries. So going from that one symbol, we've just expanded the context. It's a planet of boundaries. And it does have a boundary. We know it has a ring, so it's showing the inner boundary of the planet and then an outer boundary. So it's really representing that. It's associated with more than the fact that it's a boundary. It is associated with the element of silica. Silica is an element of boundaries. It is the basic of the lithosphere, the hard rock surface of the earth. It forms a solid boundary within us. It is the boundaries that make up the walls of veins, of nervous tissue, the walls of mycelium, the nervous tissue. So it's this important communicator now. So now we know, this boundary setter is important for communication. We also know silica in silicone chips. Our computers, the boundaries of which the information gets transmuted is made on silica. So we know it's got this very important thing, principle. The boundaries. Borosilicate glass is the most conductive form of glass that's used in science for that capillary action. It's able to pull through. So they'll make test tubes out of Erlenmeyer flasks out of it. They'll use any of the, if you ever see, here's the image of the alchemist. They're burning something in a test tube, and then it's got these winding borosilicate glass. So it's defining these boundaries. That's very important. It all relates to silica. So we got out of that trap of going, Saturn only means Satan, it only means the devil, it only means this group of people, or it only means they're just referring, oh, all right, so this, it's astrology then, it's the study of that, of that planet. No, we've actually expanded that boundary, knowing that this is important for boundaries. Now, how does the representation, now we're actually expanding our boundary of a Saturn, how do we then look at Saturn in our own life? They say one Saturn cycle around the sun is 27 years. So we can look at our time in sections of 27. We're about to transcend boundaries right now. Some important popular culture around 27. Jimi Hendrix, Jim Morrison, what's her name? Janis Joplin, was Aretha Franklin involved in that? Several other, Kurt Cobain. These are artists that died at 27, and it's a common theme. Well, it's 1, 2, 3. It's 3 sets of 9. We're not going to go too much into that, but for those who understand, numbers and 3, 6, 9, it's through 9, 9, 9, so it's 3 cycles and 9. But it's signifying this boundary. These creative people, they push their boundaries of this creative energy, and it's this childlike thing. 27 is when you complete your first Saturn cycle and ready to go into an adult. But they've used so much of this youthful, they're in the boundaries of youth, energy, and we're not able to acclimate to this world. Usually drugs then got to them because they were trying to expand the boundaries even further, and they end up breaking through that boundary and being taken from this world. And whether you're a conspiracy theorist and you think that something else happened to them, it's fine, because you have your boundaries of beliefs. I have my boundaries of beliefs of, I believe they died and went, away from this existence. Either way, we're in agreement in this boundary of, they moved on after 27, one way or another. Don't lock yourself in a set of boundaries, because we can even find commonalities, and that's where we're getting to now. So imagine my hand is a boundary. Imagine it's a full circle, and then this is a boundary. This is your first 27 years in life. This is your second 27 years in life. So we're entering from one boundary to the next. You're at that boundary, and that, where they intersect, is where a lot happens. A lot happens at age 27. It's like, you gotta really commit to your beliefs and your path in life. You gotta set that boundary of what you're gonna go into and where you're gonna transition. And for me, 6 months away from my 27th year, I'm like, what are my true goals in life? Let me have the basis and foundation be ready to go to the next thing. For me, I believe the ultimate path of man is to find, purify himself, and find a woman who's purifying herself, and come together in union and intersect your boundaries. And so we'll learn a lot about boundaries. Life happens at the boundaries when things interact. So a lot's happening right there when things are colliding. And you could think about anything when one cell collides with another cell, when one atom with another atom. that transfer of energy occurs and life gets in motion and in movement. There are other things I'd like to speak on that. It's escaping my mind because now we're going to our next segment. So we had our past point of we've got our two principles of important to set boundaries for your life, and then it's important to keep boundaries that aren't limiting yourself. And we use the example of Saturn. Now, setting boundaries in your life, allowing what comes in and what goes out. It is important to do that because we're all looking to receive things in our life. We have to set a boundary to receive those things, to receive our gifts in life, our abundance. Now think of a cup. One moment. These are cups from experiments I did with my kids. One more moment. Okay, in these infinite waters, we have everything, all the gifts you are going to receive in this lifetime. It's the Holy Spirit. It is the water, the holy water. You want to receive it. You haven't set up boundaries. You figure if you keep yourself open, like I'm open to all possibilities, I'm willing for it to come in, but you don't set boundaries. Here's how I live my life. Here's what I need and am looking for in my life. Here is where I draw my bounds. Here's where I say no. You're not going to receive it. Here's someone who did not set their full boundaries. They think they're full because they're like, oh, this is what I want to do in my life. So their cup starts to form and they tell people about their cup. So God comes in and says, you set your boundaries, right? You're like, well, I was keeping those possibilities open. I don't know where they're going to come. I just want to make sure I get my boundaries, so I'm checking everywhere. Well, you made a fool of yourself because you kept it open and the water ran. You were too busy chasing all over. But when you set those boundaries, like, here are the parameters I'm willing to work, and this person's ready to give you what you want. And they're like, can you make all these exceptions for me? And you're like, well, that goes against my boundaries. Maybe this is the time I'm supposed to give up my boundaries. You get that cup. But when you say, no. When a girl comes up to you and you're like, you've been really working on yourself, you're willing to now, wow, I want to be in a relationship with this person. And someone else comes before, and they're not that person, but you have some lust. Well, you have some lust, and you're like, well, I'll just say yes to that lustful person. And then when that person comes along that you really want, you've just poked holes in yourself. You're no longer able to receive the blessings. But as soon as you say, no, I don't want those girls anymore, that's not the life I'm after, I'm looking for that one for me. I've defined the life I'm willing to live. The water will no longer spill out your cup because there's boundaries set for this cup. We were able to receive the water because we left that portal open. We shut off the bottom. I'm going to go now through some examples to give you in your life, expand further. And I'm going to use examples from my own life. I am building businesses. Why businesses? Well, I want to keep my possibilities open. I'm finding people ask me to do all things for them, and I know I'm capable of doing all those things. But I am expanding myself and going over this way and that way and this way and that way, never really completing and saying, this is what I want to do. And those clients end up slipping away, or I end up spending so much energy to receive the energy that's coming back. I didn't define my boundaries. Once I focus on the core of my businesses. I've got my coffee business, and then I have my homeschooling business. Well, the homeschooling is really about fun and sharing this information. It's not my main driver of money economics. I've had to set that boundary. And that frees me up to have fun with it and to be able to pass on this knowledge to kids, which that is important in life. You always have to be giving in order to receive. You want to empty out so you can receive what's coming next. And when you receive, you want to empty out. And your boundaries are complete, so you're able to do that. What happens when I'm on Long Island. It's weird. I go out all different places and I'll have someone an hour away. Well, would you do classes here? And I say yes, anywhere. But we have to set boundaries. I have to find a location there and then find people to fill it from that area. I've just stretched myself and diluted myself. I diluted my pool because I didn't set a boundary. But if I said I'm only teaching classes in this location, anyone can come from anywhere to that location. That's when I actually start making getting classes, getting more and more kids coming, so I'm teaching more things. And I do make some money off that, but I actually get that. And I'm stable. I'm this stable silica. That's another representative of this boundaries of silica. It's a stable. It's fluid but stable. That's what you learn from it. Like glasses, it's stable but it's fluid. And you have to be like that. We're just expanding what the context of Saturn is. It's also this ability to be fluid, and that's why it's so conductive. So we have to set those boundaries. I'm looking for a relationship now. I have possibilities. I have options because I've really grounded into myself, and I'm able to connect with people. I'll be able to quickly know this person, it wouldn't really work out. It's going to distract me. But I say yes to that opportunity because I'm going to get something out of it. And usually it's something, it's lustful. I get greedy and lustful. And I go, yeah, I'll just pursue it for that. Now that girl who was actually right for me is not going to come because I've poked holes in myself. I've adopted the holes of that person in myself. That's one way to look at it. Spiritual STDs, I call them. You take on that person. There's a reason why that person's not going to work out for you because they haven't developed themselves to the same level. They don't have the same perception. When they DM me on Instagram and I check them out, boom, 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 and I see they're posting things I don't like. I recently told a girl, I said, I don't like what you're posting. Like, I want to know what kind of guy you think I am. I found out they weren't looking for money from me. They weren't trying to get me to some, OnlyFans page. They weren't trying to do anything like that. This person was actually looking for relationships in the wrong way. And I'm like, that's a little bit sketchy. I'm not looking to save someone who's in that kind of way. So I just said that and said, well, they wanted to talk more about it. They didn't understand that. But I had to set up my boundary. I'm not into women like that. I get women then in person. It's nice to flirt and everything, but there's a clear boundary. If I'm advertising my business, I'm advertising my business. I'm not then going after women to connect. I have to set up that boundary. That way my business reputation is intact. What you see on the outside, protecting that Saturn, the ring around us. But if I start then flirting for the purpose of getting a girl's number to go on a date, I'm now interfering with the boundaries of my business. I'm mixing those two over, and I could get bad reviews about my business. Hey, this guy's just trying to pick up women. I can't do that. If I really do then want someone because I think they would be right, first of all, I have to think that they're right. Most of them I'm like, nothing would really work out. This is lust. Move on. Then good things happen. If I did meet someone, I'd have to set the boundary, say, hey, I find you very interesting. I would like to see you again. And I have to set the boundary of, this is my business, and it's not something I do typically, but there's something about you. I don't want it to, affect the way that you're interacting with my business. If you really want the product, that's separate. You can get that. And if we go on a date and it's not okay, if you still want that product, you can have it. I will set the boundary to be like, okay, you're still a good person. It's not a person for me. Or if it keeps going, I also then can't be like, well, I'll give you all my products for free. there's there's boundaries. I also can't come off offensively like, oh yeah, buy my products and I'll take you on a date. I can't do that. That's intermixing these boundaries. We have to set that up in our life. But when you set up boundaries in your life, you are then allowing the good things to come in. And when you set up boundaries and people are asking for things, like that's not part of my boundaries, and you say no to that, they're not going to distract you. Women won't distract you. False clients who are asking for things that are outside your boundaries aren't going to distract you from your main point when you can form a really stable structure and go after and get it. I hope you gained a lot of insight and even felt some personal reflection in what I have shared. This is information for you to think on. Create your own boundaries of how you want to absorb and receive this information. Go forth, use it, use this logic, this wisdom, this knowledge, this personal experience that I'm sharing to take in what is good for you and what feels right in your boundaries, and continue to grow in this garden, in the garden between us, where we can cultivate together. Peace. If you enjoyed this, do ask for you to like and subscribe. And if there's someone in your life who can benefit from this information, please go ahead and share that. That will help to grow the boundaries of this presence of the garden between us on YouTube, on all the other platforms that we will be going on. Peace.